My pleasure now to introduce Philippe Rocca-Sera, who is a group coordinator and associate member of the faculty at the Oxford E-Research Centre in Oxford, UK. So he is one of the authors of the FAIR principles that have been introduced by Carol. Philippe, thank you very much for accepting to present us the FAIR cookbook project in only 15 minutes, including questions, and I leave you the floor now.
Thank you so much, Dominique. It's a pleasure to be presenting you today. Really would like to thank the JOBIM committee for giving me the opportunity to present to the group. And yes, I will, in a way, follow up on what Sarah has introduced. I'm insisting on the aspect of training, which is somehow the purpose of the book that we are building as part of this IMI-funded project, which is called FAIR Plus. And so, yes, this is the link to the resource, and the aim is to provide content for somehow guiding people to produce FAIR data. FAIR has been taking the world by storm since the publication in 2016, but it seems to be that there is a lot of generic guidance about how to produce FAIR. But when you look for actual data and try to interview various people, there are very, very different opinions of what FAIR data is to begin with. But also there is sometimes I feel a lack of technical guidance. So in a way, this is what we try to address with this resource, and also we wanted to do that in the context of the project we are funded. So that's also adding a constraint because we were dealing with data produced by pharma industry or projects funded by the Innovative Medicine Project, which bring together academics and industry partners. So really the project was, yes. So the project is essentially, you should see it as a kind of live resource. The project is live, but we keep adding content, and the purpose is really to broaden the scope and really at the moment we have a fairly limited set of content, but we want to expand that, and we have a lot of active developers, and we're actually involving the community as much as we can. We had a very successful Elixir webinar meeting in May, at the end of May. Some of you probably attended it, so if you see some of the slides, I apologize for the duplication, but that's in a way the material that we have. And I think one aspect that is really important is trying to understand our target audience. We want to reach people who are involved in verification process and who are looking for help or assistance, but also to share the experience that these people have with the community at a wider range. And this has to be done in different contexts because, of course, different communities have different needs. And when we look at one of the requirements of the notion of FAIR is to provide sufficient metadata, this is a very fuzzy definition or requirement. And therefore, we need to have research groups working on, as Sarah pointed out, really understand what is really optimal annotation for the downstream use of these data to really maximize the investment that we are consenting and the various funding agencies are actually offering to the scientists. And who is developing it? Well, people like you, essentially. We are a mix of people doing wet lab science, but also computer science and ontology development, and wrestling with the principle themselves, because there is still a big gap between the implementation or the kind of addiction of these rules and or recommendation and the actual hands-on work when we have to deliver FAIR data. I will touch on two things on this one. So as I said, the motivation was to move away from very generic guidance to try to deliver something hands-on. Because, as always, you learn by doing. And this is an experience that the carpentries have had. I think, everybody has been involved in the Elixir biohackathon that was held a couple of times. I had the opportunity to attend that in France a couple of times, organized by the IFP, which is great. But you can see the power and the success of this collaboration between different groups and different people. In a couple of days, you can really develop and go quick. But having the ability to transfer that in material that can be shared to wider audience, give the opportunity to many students to give it a try, to try different techniques, different tools is a very powerful way. And I think Sarah insisted very wisely on that point in the long run. So the learning objectives for the book are really, okay, we've got example data sets. We show you how to do this, for instance, with transcriptomic data, or maybe if you have metabolomic data, you would like to know how to do this. And we try to give you pointers to do this. And another key aspect is also to understand the maturity of the fairness. So this is the maturity model that we try to develop. That was actually highly recommended by Carol when we were Carol Gobel, when we were writing the proposal. And this is actually quite hard to do, but also kind of an important aspect, because it gives you two things. It gives you an understanding of how stable and efficient your process is, mature essentially, but also whether the data that you're producing are actually themselves fair enough. So it's both the data and the process that you would have to evaluate when you develop these kind of things. Then we try to also highlight a number of open source tools, because of course there are many companies that are claiming to do fair data. When we address our audience, we have a mix of people. So obviously building our material with open source tools, free tools is also important, and I think important for accessibility and openness of the information. Also, what is important is to understand the kind of skills that you need to deliver fair. And this is also tied up quite tightly to the kind of challenges that we are facing. And I think this is well known, so I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure. So in terms of usage and people that we are targeting, it's pretty much everyone. Obviously, the bulk of the people that we want to involve are people developing tool to provide them with tips, or at least examples that could be reused, so that they can build tools that deliver fair by design. I think that's doing fair retrospectively is always a very expensive business and not so efficient, but building that into the new procedures and the new process and the tools. I was just sitting for the last 3 days on the review panel for the ANR, and everybody was in a way talking about fair, and there are huge needs, as we all know. And I think this is really a very important aspect, that we need to have support for developing tools that produce fair data from day one. So quickly, I will give you a quick overview of the content of the book. The stack, we really used an option that was through interaction that we had here with the Alan Turing Institute in the UK, talking with the group that was building the book of data science. We basically followed their steps and used the stack that we're using, which is Jupyter Book, which is basically a Sphinx wrapper around Sphinx that renders Markdown document and Jupyter notebook elements. We wanted to have the ability to have content produced by software developers, or at least people computer savvy. So we would have these Jupyter notebooks that could be executed. But as well, we need content that is more, introductory and to guide people into the more technical bits. So this is a kind of overview. The chapters are organized according to the main letters of the acronym of FAIR, but we also provide sections about the infrastructure that you need and applied examples. This is a quick overview of the distribution. You can see that a lot of our recipes are around the interoperability, because we need to cover everything around the syntax, the standards, the ontology that you may use. The challenge, I think the big challenge will be around reusability, because if you have in mind what Barend Mons called the hourglass model, there are many ways to skin a cat and to produce fair data. But with this very diverse data structures that we will be implementing and variety of vocabularies, interrogating that search space with this in a consistent way will be a challenge. So we will need to have also convergence into the resources that we use to deliver fair data. And the examples that we have at the moment, just to give you a feel for the recipe, we focused on, and in terms of interoperability, the survey that we had with our group of users was that there was huge needs around ontology. How do I build ontology? How do I use ontology? How do I contribute? And this is another aspect that is really, really important. Is the how do I contribute vocabulary or terms to an ontology? And this is a big challenge, because usually the response time, the lag between the moment the request arrives and the moment the term is actually published in the ontology can be very, very painful and too long. So these are the kind of challenge that I was telling you about. So the structure of the recipe is fairly standard. We have as we would have for any kind of good recipe, we have a list of ingredients, the tools, the skills that are needed, and the data, the kind of standards that we will be manipulating in terms of ontologies or syntaxes or APIs. And then we follow the steps, a series of steps, trying to really give the opportunity to people to re-execute and rerun the process so that from the starting point, which is possibly a completely unstructured document or an annotated table, down to possibly an RDF graphling data complete with the associated Sparkle queries. What we felt was also quite important for the in a way educational aspect and teaching material is to provide consistent content. So for that, we have always a card in the book that summarizes the target audience, the reading time, the kind of skill and the difficulty levels, but also we provide a kind of graphical overview that was super useful for when interacting with the domain experts, elicit the knowledge and reach an agreement. This is really what we want to represent, but as well as we were interacting with the fellows and the new students that we are getting in the program to convey the message of the purpose of the content of the recipe quite clearly and unambiguously. Also, we have identifiers and resolvable identifiers actually for each of the recipe, and this is in a way a key important point that we wanted to make. As we are using an existing software kit, in a way, a stack infrastructure, how do we make sure that the content we produce is fair itself? And in another way, we need to eat our own dog food to show that we are not only preaching, but also doing. And this has revealed a number of difficulties. So the first is to integrate all these principles in an existing platform. We managed to do it, but also then how do you select the number of techniques that you want? So Frank just told about schema.org and about schema, and basically this is what we use to annotate and mark up our pages. And so we provide a sitemap, the JSON LD is embedded into each page. We use that with a directive into the Sphinx stack, which allows us to provide the key information to a search engine and crawlers. So hopefully we will see the identifier, the pages that are served by the cookbook indexed in Google or other search engine quite efficiently soon. What was actually quite important is for producing linked data is to have stable resolvable identifiers. And while there are a number of techniques to do this, we use W3ID stack. In fact, this is proving to be a piece of infrastructure which is kind of hard to have and to maintain. So we can mint identifier, right? That's easy. But minting and making available resolvable identifier all the time with all the metadata, with content negotiation and all that stuff, it's tricky and expensive. So really, if we want to deliver linked data and this kind of web of data, we will need to do a lot of work on this one. In terms of identifiers, we use also ORCID. This is all our recipes are annotated with identifiers so that we can ensure, credit. This is really important, an acknowledgement of the contribution of people. And this is for us an essential step. So we want to make sure that all the content that is provided is assigned to people, and also the attributions. We use a credit ontology for doing so. And of course, as you can see, we provide the license and the protocols is open. So in a way, this is our attempts at doing fair. with our own recipes, but we have yet to include a fair assessment in every of our pages. And even though we have recipes to show how to do this, I think this is another point that we would like to improve. And I think I've already talked to Alban and Marie-Dominique and Thomas on possibly using the fair checkers. So I think it would be a very nice collaboration moving forward. In terms of contribution, as I said, we are looking for content and contributors. So we are opening completely. We usually managed all our requests for content via GitHub. We completely lift the infrastructure of GitHub because it's really what computer scientists use. And it allows also to not worry too much about the infrastructure. And this is a very important aspect for the sustainability of the project. GitHub works. It's a bit daunting for non-CS people, for sure, but we also cater for them, for the non-techie users, by providing a guideline using Google Docs. So we don't exclude anyone. It's very collaborative, and also GitHub allows us to track contribution through the elements. So I'll move quite quickly through those slides, but basically this is if you want to contribute, these are the elements that we can choose. We have 3 routes. We can use Google Docs. We're happy to for you to create a recipe with the outline with Google Doc, and we will handle all the nitty-gritty of the conversion. But if you already have documentation in Markdown, well, you can send us a pull request as well, and we will be happy to engage and contribute. Also, if you want to interact with the group, just get in touch directly with me or to the FAIR+ group. And we also have a sign-up spreadsheet. So if you want to to connect and record that, I can provide the links. And if you have suggestions for what is missing, we would be happy to engage with the group. Yes, these are the last couple of slides. These are the people that we are actually making up the coordination committee and the editorial boards, because this is something that we value very much, to give the credit. So of all the people, either in the content or the coordination, but also technical aspects. And we engage with a mix of people from industry, as you can see from Bayer or Novartis, but also from the Elixir nodes, which is providing a lot of support for the project. So really, this is probably my last slide. I will not take more time, but these are the kind of how do we grow the community. We've been following the practice of the Turing Institute by trying to organize a monthly book dash, which are the last Wednesday of each month. And up until now, it was very much for the FAIR+ project mostly, but we are opening up completely. So the next few months we'll advertise more, and hopefully we will see some of you joining the effort. I've already been in touch with, as I said, Alban, but also Pierre Lamont for AgroLD, which was a great resource, and also Cyril Pommier for a long-standing collaboration around MyAPI. So that would be very nice to add. So I'll stop here and take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philippe. It was a very nice overview, and it's very good to see that it's a live, living resource that we can contribute. There is a comment from Carol on the Q&A, which clarifies the fact that the FAIR cookbook complements the RDM kit. And so I invite everybody to read this comment, because it's important to put the cookbook in its context. But unfortunately, we have no time for more questions because we are already ahead. So if there are some, Philippe will answer directly in the Q&A.